on, everybody? I'm Jason, this is Jace, and today I wanted to do a quick video. I'm going to be changing the main jet in my Mikuni TM34 flat slide carburetor. I want to give a quick summary about why I'm doing it. So as some of you may recall, about 6 months ago or so, when I first got this tractor up and running, I was having some issues with fire coming out of the exhaust. And I went around and around and I narrowed it down to the packing in the muffler was catching fire. Or so that's what I thought. Anyway, the other night I got home from work and I took this thing for a ride. I went a couple miles down the street, and on the way back I was trying to cruise along at a good clip in 4th gear, and it started breaking up and fire started coming out of the exhaust pipe once again. A good steady flame, and not a good one. So back when I was messing with this carburetor, I had bought some pilot jets because I thought I was only getting into the pilot circuit. I hardly ever run this thing full throttle or anything like that. So I thought it was that. I got a few pilot jets, I played with them, and I think I ended up going back with the size that was in it. And I'll verify that when I take it apart. However, the other night when I was talking about going up and down the road here, it was breaking up to the point where I think it's running so rich that it's fouling out the plug so bad that the plug quits firing, and then the unburnt gas comes into the muffler and combusts or ignites or whatever. And then it'll smooth out and it'll run okay again, and if I rev it up, it'll clear up. But I do notice also, if I just, from a slow idle, if I hit the throttle, it breaks up, it stumbles. It'll eventually rev up, but it just doesn't seem right, and it's an issue that I've been needing to address for a long time, I think. And I do see black smoke coming out of the front of this thing when I'm revving on it and stuff. So I do have a couple of main jets. I bought them from a place called Niche Cycle. They're out of Tampa, Florida. And I bought them 6-7 months ago when I was messing with this, and just never got around to changing them out because I thought I had the problem solved. So anyways, that's why I'm doing it. Give me a minute. We're gonna get this thing off. We're gonna get the carburetor off, get it up on the bench, and I'll be back in a minute. All right, guys, so this is my carb setup. And I know I'm not overpowering the needle and seat because I've got a T right here on the carb feed. And I've got a fuel pressure regulator, and it's set to 1 PSI. And when I open up the gas tank on the return, it steady flows back into the tank. It's doing a loop, and the carburetor only gets what it needs. So I'm going to take this thing out of the equation. I do have a very free flow air filter on this. As you can see, there's no other pipe or tubing. It's just an air filter right on the front of the carburetor. I don't think that has anything to do with it. Alright, so I disconnected the fuel line. I already unscrewed the choke, but that's where it goes, and it just threads in there. And the next thing I've got to do is take off the throttle. Here we go. So I don't need to take that apart. I'm just gonna leave this hang, the needle and the slide. And all I need off of here is the carburetor itself. All right, I got a stainless steel bowl. I keep a bunch of these things in here. Go ahead and dump out whatever gas is still in it. That should be good enough. All right, so I got the gas drained out of it. The next thing I'm gonna do, I put it on my bench here. And you gotta take out these 4 bowl screws. Now those 4 bowl screws are out, and the bowl should lift right off. All right, now we have the bowl off, and if you look right here, down in this hole is the pilot jet, and this right here is the main jet. So I realize now, if you pan over here, this is all the stuff I bought months ago. So I've got a 210 or a 15 pilot jet. I've got a 17.5. I've got two 17.5s in this bag because when this carburetor came from Performance 670, it had a 17.5 in it. Now, I had bought a 20 also, and this bag is empty because the 20 is currently in the carburetor. That's the pilot jet. Now, when I was playing with these pilot jets, I tried the 17.5, that's what was in it, obviously, and I tried the 15, but that made it really stumble off idle, really lean condition. It even had more of a stumble with the 17.5. When I put the 20 in it, it wasn't so bad. It felt like it cleaned it up. And when I say it stumbles now, I mean when I try to goose it. Like if I roll into it easy and go full throttle, it'll rev right up and it runs good. I'm talking about from if it's idling just at a slow 1,000 RPMs or whatever it is when it's down low. If I just goose the throttle, it will stumble really bad and blow black smoke. It hasn't backfired, but it never just revs up smooth. And I've been on the Facebook forums ever since I got Facebook back about a month ago, and I'm part of a group for the Predator 670, and a lot of those guys were talking about the pilot jet needs to be between 17.5 to 22. I've got a 20 in it. I'm not going to mess with the pilot jet today. And then they also said that this comes with a 250 main, and that you want to be somewhere around 220 right here, which I've got. So I'm going to go straight for 220 because these other two are 230 and 245. I'm going full on 220 right now. So we're going to go ahead and pull pull the main jet out, put the 220 in it. We're going to put it back together and get it back on the mower. See what happens. All right, so here we go. Now this main jet happens to be a 6mm. And I've got a 6mm wrench. Go ahead and unscrew that. And there went the emulsion tube. Alright guys, so I had the carburetor upside down when I unscrewed the main jet. And the main jet fits inside this. And the whole thing threads into the emulsion tube like so. And when it fell out, when I had this thing and I unscrewed it all the way, and the tube fell out, I looked down in there, and there's a slot in the tube, and there's a corresponding key inside the hole for it. So it locates itself so it can't rotate. So it only goes in there one way. So also this here is definitely a 250 main jet. And I'm just going to simply replace it with the 230. I mean the 220. Sorry guys. 220. So now it's in there. It was pretty snug before. Definitely don't want to crank that until it strips or breaks. I'm going to call that good. Now there's this little plastic piece that fits over here. And we're going to put our bowl back on. Don't want to force anything, just make sure it goes back together smooth. I've had the bowl off this thing before when I was playing with the pilot jets, so I know from experience kind of how to put it back together, how it looks, but it's not very complicated. All right, I got the screws started by finger. I don't ever put a tool on something right away till I feel it thread. And I just snug them down to the perfect amount of click. I don't know if there's a torque spec for these, but I haven't torqued them yet. I just do them by feel. Haven't had any issues. Make sure they're all even. This one here, that's it. So that's it, the main jet's changed out. Let's put it back on the mower and try it out. All right, I got everything reconnected. Choke, fuel line, throttle cable, air filter, and the hose clamp that holds it onto the intake manifold. So we're ready to go ahead and prime this thing. I've got the electric fuel pump. Just make sure it's... That's the return fuel. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and choke it. Light it off. Fire it back up, but I'm going to let it warm up outside and take it down the road and see if anything changed. So I just took it up and down the road. I think it's plenty warmed up by now. It feels better. Before, when I used to try to cruise at a sustained higher RPM in fourth gear, I used to feel, it's hard to explain, I used to feel the heat and the warmth. I mean, obviously coming out of the muffler, but it was excessive. And then it was fuel vapor, I think. And then especially when it was starting to flame, you could literally feel it like through your pants, coming back with the wind. And I just took it up and down the road the same as I would, and I went even faster than I normally would, and it didn't seem to do that. And it also sounds better, if that makes sense. Of course it does, right? We're tuning it. But I think running it leaner definitely helps. Now, I don't know what to expect out of this thing. I don't know if you can just hit the throttle from a slow idle and it's just supposed to snap like a hot rod V8, right? I don't know if it can do that or not. I'm sure it can if you really get it tuned in nice, but I'm gonna turn it back on because I can't talk over this thing, but I'm gonna turn it back on and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So that's a pretty slow idle. I'm gonna rev it up. See, I'm getting off-idle backfires. I don't know if it's too lean on the pilot jet now, or what. Or if it's too rich. I don't know. It stumbles, and then it revs up nice and clean. But it's always done that no matter what I do. No matter what pilot jet in it, no matter what main jet's in it, no matter where I put the needle on the slide. I've played with that thing in every position. I just can't get it to run perfect. But I think it's a big win that it's not blowing fire right now. Now, obviously, I'd have to take it another 2 miles up the road and back to see if it'll ever do it. But for now, it's getting late, and I think I'm going to call that a win for today. I'm going to take it up and down the road one more time and see if I can get it to blow fire. It's cold out here right now, too. Well, that's it for tonight. If anyone's got any suggestions, I think I might need to, I don't even know. Should I try to lean up the pilot jet? Put the neck size up to 22 that I've got, 22.5 or whatever it is. I don't know, it still has a stumble, but it seems like the hotter it gets, like the more heat soak and the engine warms up properly, it seems like the throttle response gets better, of course, right? And I also like to mention that I put in hotter spark plugs. I think it's got the NGK BPR6ES or something of that effect. And I think there's a hotter one out there. It's the same NGK, but it's a 2ES, not a 6. I've got the 6s. That definitely helped over the stock Predator spark plugs. But like I said, if you guys have any more suggestions, what I can do, I can just keep toying with it, obviously. But I don't know what perfect is. If anyone has any insight on how it should rev, because I don't know. I've never had a Predator 670 before this. You know, in my mind, I'm thinking snap, 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 right? Is it possible? I don't know. I haven't seen it happen yet. Not right off idle. Anyways, I appreciate you guys watching. For those of you that watched to the end, extra thanks. And once again, I'm Jason. This is Jace. This is Tennessee Mountain Homestead. And I'll see you on the next one.